Cars Garage. In this video, I'll be working on the GL Racing GTR Step 3 or page 7 in the manual. So let's get started. So we're going to install the steering system onto the chassis, and I decided to go with the option part, the GL-GTR aluminum dual steering arm with servo saver set. So we'll install this instead of what comes in the kit. The servo saver does help with saving your servo because the stock one does not have a servo saver. It's just fixed and they're plastic. So the aluminum pieces help with durability, and servo saver helps with your servo. It looks like all the parts that we need are in this kit, so we don't need this part here, which is labeled A2, and this part would be A2-6 or A2-4, 5, and 6. So we're not going to use this. Additionally, we're going to need D17, which is in this bag, D21, which is also in this bag, D22, D23, the bearings. We're also going to need SM2 shims, which are 2.3 by 4.4 by 0.5. We're also going to need M2 by 4 KM screws, M2 by 4 PB screws, and M2 by 4 KB screws. Along with the A3 sprue, we're going to need parts A3-5 and A3-6. Then we're also going to need our B3 part, which is made out of carbon fiber. So let's go ahead and install this piece first. So we're going to need, let's install the balls first. So we're going to need 2 D21s. And since we have this parts bag open, we can grab our D17s. We're going to need 3 of those, and they are the smallest ball studs in the kit. So just take note of that. So we're done with this bag. I'm going to set it aside. We're also going to need 2 M4 by KM screws. So let me grab those. We're also going to need 2 M2 by 4 KM screws. And we're going to need 4 M2 by 4 PB screws. So I won't take out the PB screws right now, so I don't mix them up. And we're going to need 2 SM2 shims. So let me get those out. They're not labeled SM2, they're labeled by the size, so take note of that. The ones that we need are 2.3 by 4.4 by 0.5. And we only need 2 of those, so I can put this back. Okay, so this piece is directional. So you'll see on the bottom that these holes are countersunk. So this is going to be the bottom, and the top is not countersunk. So we're going to take our M2 by 4 KM screw, install it from the bottom. Then we're going to install the SM2 shim, and then the D21 ball. And you're going to need 2 1.5 hexes in order to tighten this. And you don't want to tighten too much. There we go. So we can go ahead and do the other side. Okay. So the part's going to look like this now. The screws are on the bottom countersunk, and the ball studs, or the balls, are on the top. So now we can install this piece onto the chassis. We're going to need 4 M2x4 PB screws. And we don't need those anymore. So this part here is going to install in these 4 holes with the M2x4 PB screws. Okay, so you're going into plastic, and these are tiny screws, so you don't want to crank down on it too hard. Once you feel it shoulder up, it's good. Now let's move on to installing the battery mount, which is part A3-5 and A3-6. So I'm going to go ahead and pop these off the sprue, trim them, and then we'll go ahead and install them. And we don't need this part just yet, so we can set this aside. So these are directional, and they're going to install in this orientation here. The top is completely flat, and the bottom, you'll see, has 2 holes and a boss. So these are going to install in the chassis here. So the boss will go in this tiny hole, and the screws are going to come through these 2 holes here. And on this side, so for this, we're going to need 4 M2x4 KB screws. And we don't need the KB screws anymore, so we can set those aside. So on the bottom, you'll see that the 2 screws install here, and on this side will be these 2 holes. And again, you're going into plastic, so you don't want to crank on it too hard. Once you feel it shoulder up, it's good. And make sure that the screws are flush or below the bottom surface, so they don't catch on anything. All right, there we go. So the battery strap system is installed. Now we can move on to our servo saver. So the servo saver has its own little manual. So if you're going to install this, make sure that you go to GL's website and type in GL-GTR OP-004, and on their part page there's a link to the instructions for this piece. So let's get this open. All right, so everything we need is on these parts trees. So what I'm going to do first is take these parts off the parts tree and trim them. I can definitely tell the plastic's quality on this is different. The plastic is much harder. All right, so I'm going to start off with one of the steering linkages. This piece here, it's flat, completely flat on one side, and it has some raised bosses on the other side. So we're going to install the ball studs D17 from the top where the bosses are. And make sure not to over tighten. For this ball stud, as soon as you feel it shoulder up, it's good, because it'll be easy to over tighten this. Since the shoulder on this ball stud is very small, it can just go right into the plastic. There we go. All right, so let's put together the servo saver. I'm going to go ahead and install the D17 part that we took out earlier. 17 is going to install on this part right here, and it's going to install from the top like so. Again, make sure you don't over tighten this, and once you feel the ball stud shoulder up, it's good. Let's actually install the steering link onto the bell cranks here, and then we'll install our servo saver on top. Otherwise we may not have enough clearance. So we're gonna need our parts that came in it. It doesn't give a part number. These are different than what come with the kit, so take note of that. So we're going to face the ball studs up and this rounded section here towards the bell cranks themselves. And so we have the short one and then the long one. So we're going to install this piece on top through this hole here and into the aluminum piece. Everything's tight and it moves under its own weight. That's exactly what we want. So let's go ahead and install the other one. You can see everything kind of moves under its own weight. So that's great. So this is what the assembly looks like as of now. All right, now we can install this plastic piece with our D17 ball stud on to the shorter side. Next, we're going to install our spring on top, and then we're going to install the adjuster, and this adjuster needs to turn clockwise in order to screw in. So I'm going to just put it down on my table, push down and rotate, and there we go. So we need to adjust this thickness here to 13.5 millimeters. All right, we're at 13.5. I believe it's shouldering up anyway, so that'll work. Set this aside for now. Let's create our steering link. So our steering link turnbuckle, there's a side with a notch. It's going to be hard to see on camera, but there's a little notch right here. This indicates a left-hand thread, and on the other side it's a right-hand thread. So take note of that. So we need to measure this from end to end is supposed to be 20.7 millimeters. So I am 2 millimeters too long. So let's go ahead and adjust this. Okay, we're very close to 20.7. I think what I'll do is install it like this and then adjust it once it's on the car. So note that one of the ball cups is going to face down and the other one is going to face back. And the one facing down is right hand thread and the one facing back is left hand thread. So we can pop this on to our servo saver. And everything moves nice and free. So what I'll do now is I will adjust this. Okay, we're at 20.7. So now we can install the bearings and then put this onto the chassis itself. So we're going to need 4 of these bearings. It's all the same bearings, so we're going to install 2 of them on top. And then we're going to install 2 of them on the bottom. And they fit nicely in there. And now all we got to do is install this servo saver set onto the posts on the chassis here. Just like that. And everything moves nice and free. And that is it for step 3 or page 7 in the manual. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe if you did. Let me know down in the comments if you had any issues. If you have any questions, I'll do my best to help you out. But as of now, this is where the build is at. So far so good. No real issues to report here. The plastic quality seems very nice on these steering components, so excited to continue with the build. Well, anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see y'all in the next one, which will be step 4 or page 8 in the manual.